What happened while we were away, brought to you by the laptop from hell. One of Hunter Biden's favorite prostitutes, a woman named Cheryl DeBovis, received over $20,000 from the federal government during the pandemic as part of the Paycheck Protection Program. She received the check for her quote-unquote female-owned sole proprietorship shortly after Joe Biden moved into the White House. The woman's name shows up many, many times on Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. Primary updates in California. Turnout models forecast between a 12 and 20% turnout statewide. One notable result from California, though, in San Francisco, now infamous District Attorney Chesa Boudin was ousted in a recall election yesterday. Boudin comes from a long line of Marxists. His father was a murderer and a member of the Weather Underground. Boudin gained infamy by eliminating cash bail, not prosecuting many crimes, and putting a lot fewer people behind bars. As the price of gas continues to rise nationwide with no end in sight, Michigan Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow has some thoughts.
Get my electric vehicle. I got it and drove it from Michigan to here this last weekend and went by every single gas station. It didn't matter how high it was. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity for us to move to vehicles that aren't going to be dependent on the whims of the oil companies.
Actor Matthew McConaughey showed up to D.C. yesterday to urge lawmakers to grab guns.
Eyes not so dry now, are they?
Whoops, wrong clip. Whoops, wrong clip. Whoops, wrong clip. Moving on, the FDA is set to hold a vote in the next few weeks to allow Pfizer and Moderna to reformulate their COVID mRNA vaccines into perpetuity without going through clinical trials because reasons. I can only assume this means a day is coming very soon when we'll be able to have cookies and cream and pumpkin spice COVID jabs. How nice. A group of 90 women, including Olympian Simone Biles, Ali Raisman, and Michaela Maroney, are suing the FBI for over $1 billion for protecting and or doing nothing to prosecute former Team USA doctor Larry Nassar. This comes about a week and a half after the Department of Justice announced again they're not pressing federal charges against the former FBI agents responsible. Demonic possession update. Here's a dude pretending to be a female prostitute.
And like for me, when I was growing up, colonialism looked a lot like, my first introduction to colonialism looked a lot like me waking up at, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, every morning to, sounds of, my ancestors screaming from outside my window, coming from the ground, coming from the earth and nature outside, like waking me up to tell me that like, hey, there is work to be done. There are things that haven't been overturned. There are things that haven't been addressed, and you are the one that's capable of doing it. And
pro-baby killing activists showed up to Joel Osteen's church in Texas recently and started stripping, trying to make some sort of point. We'll get back to you when we figure out what they were trying to accomplish. Here's a How's It Started, How's It Going mashup of Ed Stetzer. Stetzer, if you don't know who he is a church leadership guru, author, and professor at Wheaton College in Illinois. He's basically a professional nice guy. What you're about to see is a mashup of clips from Stetzer in late 2020 versus an interview recently, both on the topic of closing churches during the pandemic.
I've had a question come in asking about what your view is of the churches that haven't adhered to kind of restrictions during the period and have carried on regardless, sort of no masks, no social distancing. What would your view be on those without naming any names, Ed?
Oh, I don't mind naming names, but I don't agree. The big question is, people ask me, should we go John MacArthur? And so let's name names, since that's what we're thinking in terms of.
I mean, almost every church is down somewhere between 40 and 60%. Still 2 years into this pandemic.
Right. As far as like them gathering without mitigations and restrictions, I think that gives a message to the community that's unhelpful. And when we see people in the community say, you're putting the rest of us in danger.
We lost something significant when churches didn't meet in person. I think a better way in hindsight would have been to say that we're going to have to operate in a temporarily deficient way in the emergency for the sake of the mission, but gathering is so central. Now we're having to re-persuade people that gathering is central.
I think ultimately it can harm our witness. It can energize Christians and harm our witness at the same time. I think you need to ask the question about your witness in your community, and I think that has been hindered in many churches that have thrown off all caution, not followed mitigation, and more.
That mashup is courtesy of Woke Preacher Clips on Twitter. And that's what happened while we were away.